We are in day number 4 of NBA free agency, and of course, that's why we're here with PHLY Sixers free agency frenzy, as the 76ers still need a fifth starter, some depth overall, and we have some names to discuss, including the guy that we talked about at mark number 57 yesterday for the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll get to him a little bit today. Welcome to the show here, presented by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics. Rothman Orthopedics, of course, check them out. If you have any injuries, you need to get some things checked out, go check out our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics, as they are sponsoring us from the NBA draft into free agency. And again, as we discussed yesterday, our visit to Las Vegas next week for NBA Summer League.
Vegas,
a lot
baby.
to discuss today. We'll talk about the Summer League roster is out. Derek, we'll get to that a little bit later. We have a lot.
Greatest Summer League roster of all time.
All time? Well, they get rings now, don't they? If they win the championship, they get rings and stuff. So we'll see. I actually
banners hang forever, even if they're Las Vegas Summer League banners.
Hey, look, Orlando still resonates in our hearts, all right?
I have a hat.
Okay.
From when they won the Summer League.
Wow. Was that like 2015 or something?
Yeah, someone brought it. Here, you can have a championship hat. Thank you. I took it. I don't wear it, but I still have it in my possession. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Brianna producing all of you here on a Wednesday, the day before. Of course, we all take a day off tomorrow for July 4th. We hope everybody has a safe, happy, healthy one with your family and your friends. All the barbecues and the cookouts. Make me a plate. Invite me over. I'll be there. Let's start off with some guys here that we need to talk about. Again, we get deeper into free agents, guys who have not signed yet, some people following players on social media, trying to recruit them here. But one that we discussed yesterday, and we're going to get to his teammate as well, but one we discussed yesterday, former Sixer, different role at that time where he was more of a G League player in Haywood Highsmith, to where he is now, actually being recruited potentially to come in and maybe fill that fifth starter role, if not that, be a key rotational piece after showing that he is a much improved basketball player since the last time we saw him. Now with a member of the Miami Heat, he is a free agent, according to Keith Pompey of the Inquirer.com. They have been having internal discussions about him and trying to see if he is one that they should be paying attention to in terms of bringing in that different role. And Kyle, we talked about him briefly, but we need to talk about him a little bit more because he is one of the players that's still out there and might even fit not only player-wise and stylistically, but also financially within their cap space.
Yeah, so part of the reason we've brought Haywood up is, one, he's one of the only real wings left, right?
Left.
Like, but him and Caleb Martin, who we're also going to get to, they're two of the only guys that I think you would call playoff caliber or potentially playoff caliber wings. Mm-hmm. And so for a Sixers team that right now has, let's say, some questions about their versatility, athleticism, size on the wing outside of Paul George and arguably Ricky Council, these guys are natural targets. And since Haywood left Philadelphia, two important developments. One, last year is his best shooting season on record by quite a lot. Shot nearly 40% from three on not as great a volume as you'd like, but he's only playing 20, 21 minutes a game. So you have to take that into consideration. He's in a smallish role, you would say. More importantly, he has become, or at least in Miami was, you never know once you remove these guys from Miami if they just turn into dust. He has turned himself into a very good man defender, that he has been a legitimate stopper on the wing, has some switchability. And, you know, there are several skill sets or individual skills that we think the Sixers still need at this point, right? And Haywood is not going to help with any creation concerns they have. This is a guy who will almost strictly be someone on offense that is a spot-up, catch-and-shoot player on the perimeter. Now, the good news, he was very good at that last year. He made over 40% of his catch-and-shoot shots. Those shots made up over half of all his shot attempts last year. So if you're putting him in a similar role as you would have saw like PJ Tucker play when he was here, just go stand there, be a spacer, and force somebody to guard you. He is qualified to do that if you believe in the shooting numbers from last season. I tend to believe in them. Like, he's had a reputation as a shooter. He shot well in the G League at times. It just took a while for him to get there at the NBA level. More importantly, I think they need some defensive versatility. If you can get a real defender, and I believe he is a real defender on the wing, and you have him, Oubre, and Paul George that are interchangeable to a degree, interchangeable type of options from 2 through 4 between Maxey and Joel. I think that's a great situation to be in. Is he Kelly in terms of the self-creation and the offensive upside? No. But you're talking about a guy who needs to blend in and be happy with a fifth starter, dirty work type of role. I think based on the place he's coming from in Miami, where their whole MO there is put team before self and star in your role, all those kind of things. I think there's already proof of concept for that. So 100% get why they're in on him. Is he the perfect guy? No. Is he a good option based on what's left out there? Yes. And I was talking with members of our Discord maybe like an hour or two ago before the show. I think the other thing is, his contract, my guess would be somewhere in like the $6 to $9 million range per year. It won't be a long-term deal. That is an eminently movable deal. There is very little chance that a 1 or 2 year deal for Haywood Highsmith is something that can't be moved at this deadline or next, even if you completely crap out and he has a horrible start to the year between October and February. He's prime age, good 3-and-D guy, the type of player most of the league looks for. I think it's a pretty easy move to make as long as he's not asking for way too much.
Yeah, and like when you compare him to someone like Caleb Martin, who's another prominent name out there, I think man-to-man perimeter defense is better for Highsmith. I think that's pretty key. I think Six could really use someone like that. I don't think this is 27-year-old Paul George in that regard. I don't think you can ask him to lock down the other team's best perimeter player all the time. So I think getting someone like this would be beneficial, especially if you believe in that 40% three-point shot last year. And I know last year was the only real season that he had a lot of success in that regard. And quite frankly, I don't think I watched all that much Wheeling University or wherever he went to college. It was really low-grade ball. I think he's actually the only NBA player from Wheeling to ever make it. So I don't have much track record to go on in college. But I do think that at least what I saw last year, and it was a pretty decent sample of attempts. What are we talking about? Maybe 150 to 200 attempts last year.
192.
There you
exactly.
Go. So that's the question mark, because that shot needs to translate. Like, he's not, like Kyle said, he's not going to create off the bounce. You're not going to try to run anything through him. I'm not even sure he's going to create all that much off of closeouts, and he's certainly not going to get closeouts if that shot isn't going in. That shot is key to any kind of utility he has on offense. But if that is there, and you're able to get him, like I said, on the court for that defense, that would be beneficial. And would that be at the top of the list ahead of someone like maybe Martin? Would that be like, I think Kyle's probably right. You're talking like the $6 to $9 million per year range on a short-term deal. I think it's certainly an option, and it might be towards the top just because I think you can get it on a shorter-term deal. Like someone like Martin, I think, is probably looking for a 3-year deal. If you can get this for 1 or 2 years at a low salary, that, hey, if it works, great. You have a defender and a 3-and-D player, and if not, you can aggregate the salary in a couple months anyway. I think it's certainly worth a look.
It's absolutely worth a look. And the way that he shot the basketball, especially looking at him in March where he shot, can't keep this up, but he did shoot in 16 minutes on the average. He shot 48% from three-point range.
That's quite a close to the year.
That's quite a close. And he did so with just under three-point attempts. But not only is the shot-making ability there, it's the defense that really drives home the point that the guys are making about adding him to this team, because you know where the scoring is going to come from the three key guys in Embiid, Maxey, and now Paul George. We look at their averages and what they do with the 30-plus for Joel Embiid, 25 for Tyrese Maxey, and just under 23 for Paul George. You know you're getting close to 80 points per game from those two. So when you look at the defensive side of things, you just need him to knock down a couple of shots a game. Can he average somewhere close to 8 points per game? Knock down maybe 2 threes per game, and then play really stellar defense. And then the switchability, as the guys have talked about a lot, when you look at Oubre and George, and now potentially with Haywood Highsmith, that's a pretty good trio to have. And then the help there from the big fella, again, it always goes back to him because he is the anchor of the entire thing on the back end. Mm-hmm. Speaking being very vocal of what's happening on the perimeter and letting the guys know. But when you're looking at 6'5", 6'6", 6'8", and these guys with some very good wingspan and able to switch, and not much is going to happen. Not only is he going to be there to clean up things when they get into the painted area, they're also, the behind the back kind of recover, help out defensively, adjust some shots, get some block shots, keep those things in play to allow Maxey, George potentially to now start to break the other way while the ball is somewhere out there on the floor. You pick up that loose ball to go the other way. So I like the idea. I got to be honest, as Derek is talking about Wheeling University, I had never even heard of Wheeling University until they brought him in to play for the Blue Coats and then eventually the Philadelphia 76ers. You look at him, you're like, all right, okay, cool. It's a nice story. But then he turned himself into this, where he's starting games for the Miami Heat. And we always look at them, and we look at them as the picture of organizations of developing people into actual NBA players. That's where the scary part comes in. Tyler Johnson, all these names, Josh Richardson coming to Philadelphia, not working out. But in this case, you're asking him to come in to be a fifth or sixth player in this rotation, play somewhere around, 20 to 25 minutes, and just know who you are, play your part within this scheme and structure, and not make mistakes and get outside of yourself as if you're the focal point of the offense and just do your defensive piece. So it's a good story. It's a nice piece. And as the guy said, he's probably at the top right now. Now, we're going to talk about Caleb Martin at some point where the money is maybe going to be different and the years might be different as well. There's a real conversation of the two of who you would prefer. But the guy in Haywood Highsmith right now and simply filling out a roster is pretty good. And the interesting part, too, on Twitter, as soon as I open up our PHLY_Sixers Twitter account, the one mention underneath I saw was fifth starter. Who's the fourth and fifth? Well, we're kind of penciling Kelly Oubre in there right now. I think we all agree with that. Maybe some of you do. We know Phil W. definitely does. That guy's going to be
pencil Oubre in.
Yeah, he's the guy that's in there right now as the fourth starter. So now you're just looking at filling out the right roster. And we talked about DeMar DeRozan. That's maybe a pipe dream down the line. I see Gary Trent in there from the Blix boys in our chat here. And there's so many others. We're going to talk about Caleb Martin. We'll get to a few others. But right now, focusing on Haywood Highsmith, he has turned himself into a worthy candidate to be discussing him the way that we're discussing him right now for this basketball team.
Yeah, and look, obviously the thing that Caleb Martin has is that playoff resume. Significantly more games played. He's been more productive. He had that magical run where he couldn't miss a shot. Highsmith has never really done much in the playoffs. Like this year, he shot 18% from three in his 5 games. Only 5 games,
Not
limited
great.
Sample. Only 16 shots. You don't want to make too much of it, but there's just no track record because there are some of these shooters, especially some of these shooters who don't really put the ball on the floor all that much, and like they needed a little bit of space to get the shot off. Like it's a little tougher to do that in the playoffs. So you worry a tiny bit, but the defense is strong enough where, like I said, I think it's at least a consideration.
Absolutely.
I also want to say there's been some pushback already on, he's not that good of a defender. I would disagree on that. Before I say this, I want to be clear. I generally don't care about defensive metrics because they're super noisy, they're team dependent, but some of the individual based defensive metrics put him in like the top 5 to 10 man-on-man wing defenders in the league, above guys like a Josh Hart, who's known as a very good wing defender. You take that for what it's worth, and certainly it helps that he is within a structure, within a program where he's playing with Bam Adebayo, he's playing with Jimmy Butler, so he's sometimes able to take lesser assignments. He's able to play zone, do things like that, and so how that impacts everything, we don't know. I'm not telling you that Haywood Highsmith is going to come here and be Scottie Pippen. What I think he has shown over the last couple of years.
Scottie Pippen Jr. maybe.
What I think he has shown over the last couple of years is he is a capable defender, that he's somebody in Miami. If you don't defend, if you don't play hard, you don't get on the floor. Eric Spoelstra will bury your ass on the bench.
Yep. And he was starting, by the way.
And by the way,
Right.
Before he shot well this year, he was still getting minutes because he would come in games and impact the game defensively. And so that was his ticket to breaking into the rotation in the first place and getting some, 10, 15 minute a game type outings. in 22-23. And then this year, he shoots well. He's able to earn 20 minutes a game, sometimes 25, depending on if guys are out. He's getting even bigger role than that. And so will he hold up in a starter level role on a team where they're going to need him to play real minutes? I don't know. I can't tell you that. But he certainly has been a good defensive player the last couple of years.
Absolutely. He has definitely done that. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other side of Miami Heat, the other swingman that we've been discussing opposite of Haywood Highsmith, and why he might be the best potential fit. And who's following him on social media right now that might
always what you got to look out for
there. But we'll talk about that when we get back.
Before we do that, we want to tell you about Rite Aid and specifically their refreshery line of beverages. It has been really, really hot start to the summer. You've got July 4th coming up. You want to make sure that you stay refreshed. The refreshery line of beverages range from familiar family favorites to revitalizing, better-for-you options, and it's available exclusively at Rite Aid. Products include waters, purified spring, electrolyte distilled, and flavored waters, coconut water, which is a fat-free, gluten-free, non-GMO with less than 1% sugar. They also have single-serve iced tea, juice, and lemonade, sweetened with real sugar and no preservatives. And juice, a super wide range of juices from cranberry, pineapple, apple, strawberry, lemonade, and many more flavors, with organic options available and also great for every day or to use as mixers for cocktails and mocktails, which we all know you need every now and then. It is important to stay hydrated, especially during the summer months. Get refreshment delivered. Shop online at riteaid.com/shop for same-day delivery or buy online. Pick up in store of refreshery products.
Also want to tell you about our good friends from TrueMark Financial and their TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa credit card. If you are traveling like many are during the summer months, you want to make sure that, you have a little more security with some of your funds where maybe you can get back to it a little bit later and redeem some points and some cash while you're spending out there on these family vacations. Earn rewards for each purchase using TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa credit card and redeem them for travel and retail gift cards. Very, very convenient. Build credit through timely payments and low credit utilization. Enjoy fraud protection with features like zero liability. Here are some of the savings options: traditional savings account, basic account, offering a place to deposit funds, earn interest, and withdraw some money when needed. How about the certificate? Fixed term deposit account with a predetermined interest rate and maturity date, offering higher interest rates for locking in funds for a specific period. So if you want to make sure you have the right credit card for your travel, for you and your family, TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY.
So the other Miami Heat wing,
he can't wear number 16 because that's going to go get him, Rick.
Maybe you go get him, Rick, a little pocket change for
a little bit,
the right to wear that number. But so Caleb Martin, the other guy, as has already been alluded to, he does have more of a track record of playoff production, which is to say during one long playoff run, not this past season, but year before, as the Heat went to the finals, Caleb Martin turned into Ray Allen for about a month and a half and was absolutely burning the Nets down. Has had fun torturing the Boston Celtics, which,
everyone loves that.
All our people here certainly love that.
Honestly, for his career, what do you think the over-under is on his three-point percentage?
Like his in the playoffs?
Yeah, playoffs. Yeah.
33%.
40.1%.
I was going to say, I think it's 40-something.
On 162 attempts. It's wild how he goes from I shoot 34% in the regular season to lights out.
And isn't that what we're talking about? We always say 82 is the 82. But it's about those 16
He might just
wins.
be a 16-game guy,
now, look,
right?
162 attempts isn't enough to completely erase his regular season track record. But it is wild how he's done it too. I mean, this past year, was only 5 games. But that 1 year was really good.
Yeah, so my thoughts on Martin are I don't think he's as good of a one-on-one defender as Highsmith. I do think he's a solid team defender. And does that make a meaningful difference to me that Highsmith, I think, grades out as a better individual defender? A little bit. I don't think it's that important to me. That I think either of these guys works in that role, because if you get one of these guys who profiles as at least a solid man defender, at least a solid team defender, and both guys have played in a Miami team that They play a lot of zone, but they're just a tough defense in general. If you get one other defensive guy, then it doesn't become, hey, Kelly Oubre has to take the top assignment all the time, or Paul George doesn't always have to take a tough defensive assignment. You can spread those assignments out between essentially 3 different guys and feel okay about your options against them. And so if Oubre and Martin or Oubre and Highsmith are able to take the bulk of the tougher ones, like you're playing Boston and they can take Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for stretches of games. And certainly we've seen those guys have to do that for Miami in that specific matchup. That frees Paul George up to hopefully make a bigger impact on offense. Paul George can certainly, in certain stretches of the game, if he's taking a back seat to Joel and Tyrese on offense, say, raise my hand, I want to make more of a defensive impact and step in there. But you don't have to be locked into like, all right, Kelly stops this guy, or we don't really have any good options. That's where you don't want to be as a team. And I know there are concerns about rebounding. And so some people are in more of a mindset of don't get another wing with this money, look for more of a power forward guy, a strong rebounder. And I'm sympathetic to those arguments. What I would say is that if you, and Derek has hammered this point all off
season. Just thinking how I was going to bring this up. Yep.
And I agree with this, by the way. If you have good defenders, good to very good defenders from the 2 through 4 spots, and you're allowing less dribble penetration, you're freely switching across those matchups, and Joel Embiid is not having to come out high on as many possessions as he has historically, well, then he's back and can focus on, I'm going to get 12 to 14 rebounds a game. I will end those possessions myself. And while that will take a mentality from Joel and a better process from Joel that I don't think he always shows at times, that will make his life easier to be the elite rebounder that I think he's capable of if he sets his mind to it, if he's healthy, all that. And so will either of these guys really help with their rebounding individually? No. Will they help by providing a more sturdy defensive base and putting Joel or Andre Drummond in better positions? I 100% think so.
Yeah. When you start bringing up rebounding, look, would I love it if they could get a big forward who could also defend and shoot and could rebound? Yeah. I'd love to have an extra skill set.
Damn you, Washington and Portland.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Just wait a week.
Wait a week.
But the other way, if you have a chance to get a really good perimeter defender who doesn't deny dribble penetration and is able to switch more ball screens on the perimeter, you will improve your rebounding just by keeping the big fella near the rim and able to pursue those rather than stepping out to try to close off, put out fires. So yeah, I think that's fair. Martin, I think certainly is probably like I said, he's a more known commodity. If it didn't 100%. Come down to cost at all, like if you get them both for like a 2-year deal, which way would you go? Because I think there's an argument for both.
I still go Martin. I like Martin better personally. I understand we just laid out a 15 minutes of why Haywood Highsmith is a good choice, but for me, I'd still lean Martin in that case.
I think I probably trust Martin a little more. I think the thing is, if I fully buy into Hayward's shot, then I think that on-ball defense and that off-ball shooting is a real interesting package, especially if you can get a discount. But we've just seen Caleb Martin do it in high-pressure situations more.
You want those numbers in that Boston series? Just looking at it?
Pretty damn good.
7-game series, game 1. We'll just go game to game. 15, 25, 18, 16, 14, 21, and then the game 7 on the Boston Celtics floor, 26. And he went 4 for 6 from 3 and played 44 minutes and 49 seconds. He was
you could argue 19. He was their best player in that series.
Yes. He made life so easy for Jimmy Butler. He made Jimmy Butler's life easy in that series.
And he will find a way to impact the game if his shot isn't falling more than Highsmith will. But if we're talking about, like I said, trying to keep something that's maybe tradable, because I do think part of what we talked about yesterday is being able to pounce at the deadline when maybe some more trades become available. I think there's a chance that you can get Highsmith on a shorter-term deal, and I think that's a factor as well.
The other piece, just to add on to what the guys were saying, you both mentioned the intangible part of you box out, you allow everybody else to have an opportunity to crash the glass. If not, pick up that floorboard, making it easier for Joel Embiid to also crash the glass. Even Marcus in our chat said, yeah, it's just really simple. Box out your man. And these are things that are lost things in the
Use
NBA
two
right
hands
now.
when you're rebounding. It's the one that
ripped.
drives me crazy.
Right? Go get them ripped. And that's where you just simplify the game. And if that happens, as these guys have already laid out, then your rebounding will just simply improve, and that will make Joel Embiid that 12 to maybe 14 per game rebounder again, and Tyrese Maxey will get in there from time to time and do the exact thing. The other part that I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad Phil is in here, Phil W. What up, Phil? That I want to talk about Oubre in this case too, because with the switchability of all of those players when they're out there together, we've seen where Kelly can sometimes be overly aggressive, and he'll pick up some fouls and he has to get off the floor. I love the aggressiveness, but when you don't have anybody to follow him to come out there on the floor and pick up where he left off, you're talking about two players that are in the starting lineup where it makes the substitution pattern then a little bit easier. And Kelly can gamble from time to time.
And you can absorb the foul trouble a little bit more. If let's say Kelly picks up 3 early fouls, then okay, we got to sit him down for a little bit, but we still have options on the way.
100%. And that's where I like with either Highsmith or Martin in this case, where you lean towards one of them. I'm okay if you picking up fouls if you're taking real gambles of what you believe is a real opportunity for you to get a steal and create an opportunity to turn the basketball over and go the other way for a fast break chance and put some points on the board. You're also going to frustrate the hell out of the other side where you know how it goes. Even with take fouls, we still see some idiotic fouls when you do have that take foul because you're so ticked off. These guys are playing some amoeba-style UNLV 1989, 1990 defense on the perimeter and ticking off the other team. That is good. And I like that. So, and Phil says, what foul trouble? Brunson flopping? Guess what? When all-stars get calls, that is foul trouble. You get in foul trouble. So it's just the nature of the business. But you have reinforcements now if it's one of these two players. And that's why they both fit, especially financially in Haywood Highsmith. You would hope that now with Paul George here with the recruiting, following on social media. We were all looking at the wives following each other. Now it's the player following a free agent and trying to recruit and come to Philadelphia. You take what you can get. And if you can get that and make that happen and have everybody feeling good about what their overview is of what the 76ers did as a potential free agent, the agent looking at the opportunity, maybe a shorter term deal to get back on the market quicker because of the team's success, then you do it. And these are two good players that we're talking about here that could benefit from that.
Yeah, and look, even if Paul George fails to recruit Caleb Martin, it's good to see he agrees to this deal, and then it's right into the it's not tampering anymore, but into the recruitment to say, look, we have our 3, we have the core pillars for the next 4 seasons. We want you to come here and be part of something we think can be special. So it's nice to see, there is a little bit of, I don't want to say mistrust, but there's a little bit of skepticism about, does Paul George really want to be here, right? Like, because it's the connection to home. Will the Clippers pony up the money? All things being equal, he probably stays there.
Sure.
And it's like, is he just coming here because and yes, the money played a big thing. But as long as he is signing up for this and then is excited to be here and is saying, come make our team better, I will do whatever I can to try to lure these, rotation guys, 5th starter, whoever it might be, to Philadelphia. If he's doing that, that's all you can ask for him as the incoming. Joel Embiid obviously did his part, sneaking onto the set of NBA Countdown to make sure that he was in Paul George's ear about coming to Philadelphia. So we'll see what happens. I do think I would probably give a slight lean to Martin, just like the other 2 guys here, because of the playoff track record. And frankly, I think now both of them are not real self-creators. I think he can do a little bit more than Highsmith in terms
I trust
of
him with the basketball.
Attacking off a closeout and doing things like that, where I don't have a lot of belief in Haywood on that front. But I do think either guy is qualified to be a 5th most important guy in your starting lineup.
And I also not to cut you off, Derek, sorry, but I like, maybe I make too much of it, but I like guys with attitude as well. And Caleb Martin is one of those guys with attitude.
If you want to see attitude, cut me off one more time.
Let me slide over here. Adjust the camera.
I thought I was the attitude side of the.
But no, I personally like a little attitude, which is why when both Patrick Beverley was signed in the offseason and then the trade bringing in Marcus Morris, that was not to be overlooked when we talk about just protecting your players and some of that physicality out there that, again, will frustrate people. I'm not saying go out there and pick a fight and start a fight. But when things get a little ugly, Kelly Oubre is not afraid to get in somebody's face, and neither is Caleb Martin afraid to, muck it up and make things a little bit nasty out there on the floor, where when you step on the floor, you're going to have 48 minutes or however long those two in particular on the floor, whether together or individually, you're going to have to deal with some stuff out there that's going to make people a little bit uncomfortable getting into your jersey. Again, Nick Nurse, he likes to extend his defense 75 feet away from the basket, sometimes just a little bit more closer to the basket, midway, half court. I like that type of player. Mm-hmm. And we saw where with him and Jimmy Butler picking up players with Miami, Kyle Lowry at that time when they were making that finals run, that can be annoying and that can frustrate players. So I like that attitude part of Caleb Martin also.
Yeah, and just all I was going to say is going back to Kyle's point about Paul George. Clearly he wanted to stay home. That's not there. There's no real way to argue against that. But that doesn't mean he's not going to try when he's here. This freaking guy played in Oklahoma City and was happy and tried hard.
But we also did see Al Horford.
Well, look, I get that, but Paul George has a history of trying hard no matter where he's at. Indy, we're not talking about glamour markets. We're not talking all West Coast. He has tried hard every stop. He's not been perfect for sure, but effort. I think he's bought into the team for sure.
A couple of names that we see in the chat quickly. I see MDB is bringing up Herb Jones. He would love Herb Jones. We would all love Herb Jones.
Of course.
That's not happening. They're building
Unfortunately,
with him.
they love Herb Jones too. He's one of the best defenders on the planet. Will shoot 40% from three. He's just not.
They're
he's
building
not available
with him. Yeah, he's not available. And then the one that we always kind of push away quickly, the Miles Bridges one, because there's reports that the Clippers are now looking into Miles Bridges along with.
Hey, run for your life. hey, run for your life. Dude, that
Kevin
seriously,
Porter Jr.
between him, Kevin Porter Jr., Primo,
they don't care.
They
don't care. So I don't think that's happening for all the people asking about why are you not looking, including Phil, why are you not looking and Profit One at Miles Bridges? We'll get to a guy who
we did spend an hour talking about why we don't, under any circumstance,
we'll send out that link
want to endorse.
if you want to find out. Search for PHLY Sixers Miles Bridges. It won't be hard to find.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll talk about when we get back a former Sixer that may be heading west and some draft pick implications possibly there. What's the return? We'll talk to Derek and Kyle about that. We'll discuss it all when we get back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. The free agency frenzy continues. And we have to tell you about our sponsor here on our show, and that's good friends, Rothman Orthopedics. They've got us covered. They've got your back whenever things happen, like myself with my knee injury, with the ACL, my Achilles that we've talked about. And I'm going to continue to tell everybody about it simply because I'm back to normal, and I'm happy about it because
as normal as you get.
As normal as I get, and that is thanks to my good friends there at Rothman Orthopedics. Everyone has a specialty they love, and mine is playing that basketball. I can't give it up, folks. Everyone keeps telling me to stop it because you keep getting hurt. Go to golf. Well, you can also run and gardening. You can get injured in any way, not just playing some sports. So for others, it could be not just the shooting hoops and crossing over people. It could be simply going for a walk, going for a run, running in some marathon that you feel good about, and things just simply happen. But if you need to have someone look at any injury that takes place, at Rothman Orthopedics, their physicians are not only specialized in orthopedics and clinical research, they're also fellowship trained to treat specific areas of the body. Since 1970, their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. One of my best friends recently had a shoulder injury. He called me. We were talking. I said, man, listen, my guys, Rothman Orthopedics, go check them out. Year over year, Rothman consistently perform among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country. That's over 60,000, myself included, and maybe one of my close friends, as he figure out what he needs to do as well. It's not just the volume of 255,000 of new patients and consoles that Rothman is most proud of, but instead it's their commitment to improving each of those patients' lives through the service and care. So head to Rothman Orthopedics to get yourself fixed up. It's the summertime. You don't want to be banged up. They specialize in you. in you. And of course, in the orthopedics, visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
And guys, just want to tell you obviously about we talk a lot about our Die Hard program around here, but I think this has been a great stretch to show why we promote it so much, why we'd like you guys to get involved. Derek and I obviously putting out a lot of free agency, draft content, salary cap, all kinds of stuff to keep you guys in the loop beyond what we do here on the show. But also our Discord. Our Discord has been a super lively, super active piece of our community where I'm going to sleep at 1 or 2 in the morning, staying up for these trades.
I'm getting up at 5 a.m. We got to get covered up 24 hours.
And
baby.
Free agency rumors. And then I wake up and there are 200 messages that I missed that Derek has been part of in the morning. And it's been a really cool place where some of what I miss on what Twitter used to be like is that back and forth with you guys, back and forth with fans, where I'm able to go back and forth with a lot of you. So I've been really enjoying that lately. But if you join our Die Hard program, there are lots of other benefits beyond the written content, beyond the Discord access. You can get merchandise. You get a free shirt or a hat every year. And it's just, look, it's a way for you guys to support us if you really like the show. You get discounts on events. And by the way, while we will not be at this event, unfortunately, because we'll be out in Las Vegas, we do have the first annual Liberty Open coming up. PHLY golf event, July 13th, Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. It's a scramble format, so you can sign up as a single, a foursome, or you could even sponsor a hole if you're really feeling like Richie Rich over there. You get 18 holes with a cart. There are tournament gifts and tee prizes. There's a Taste of Philly dinner and post-round ceremony. And unlimited draft beer for 2 hours post-round. I keep saying it. That's what I'd be really taking advantage of. I'm not much of a golfer. So we had a lot of fun at Garage Fish Town for our draft show. I know the Flyers guys had a great event at Chickies and Pete's. This is the next big one on the calendar, so we'd love for you guys to go out there, support. Go to allphly.com, check out our Die Hard program, check out the events tab for more information. But we've been really feeling the love lately and would love to feel even closer to you guys here on the show.
No, just hearing you describe that Die Hard program, it sounds really wonderful. Yippee-ki-yay.
we really appreciate it. We really appreciate the support, and we hope that you go and support our golf tournament as well. Even though we won't be able to be there, we really appreciate it. We'll be doing some other things to bring you some more content from Las Vegas during this very
Team
important
USA camp out there,
Yes,
Summer
sir.
League content, hoping to get some good interviews for you guys. There'll be a lot coming down the pipeline.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. But we got to talk about Buddy Hield. He was the face
Honestly,
of our
what
show
we should do, we should
yesterday.
put him as the thumbnail for everyone, then
Buddy
just
Hield?
not talk about him.
Yeah, well-
Just see how long since we did it yesterday, we should see how long we can keep that bit going.
Well, someone was talking about him last night, and that was Woj putting out a story late last night.
I think it was
Was it
Shams.
Shams
Shams
put it out
actually.
there. Shams put it out there. My apologies. And Shams put it out there that the Golden State Warriors are looking to acquire Buddy Hield's services after losing Klay Thompson, bringing in DeAnthony Melton. They said, hey, we need more. And they need some more shooting. And that shooting is maybe in the form of Buddy Hield. They are also, Derek, looking into the form of a sign and trade potentially. So first, naturally, what fans do, they look to the players on the Golden State Warriors roster. Who can you bring back? Is it Moses Moody? Is it Moses Moody? Is it Andrew Wiggins? Is it someone else on the roster?
Oh, God, I hope not.
But
Before we get to that part, I just want to, for anyone who's waiting on updates, from what I have heard, the holdup right now
for Hield,
is the finalization of a contract.
Okay.
That's really
Yeah, and I think Jake Fisher reported that earlier today.
Yeah, and that's what I had continued to hear throughout today, is that the issue is not so much with compensation as it is they're trying to hammer out exactly how much they're going to pay Buddy and for how long. So it is, for the Sixers purposes, it's a little bit out of their hands right now for when this is going to happen. That's my understanding, having asked around about it.
but when it comes to the fan base, they look at player in return a lot of times. But that may not be the case in
happening, I
here
don't
for
think.
Golden State.
No, I don't think it would be. I don't know exactly what trade exceptions the Warriors have, but I would guess it would be something in that realm. And again, I guess some people are probably wondering, like, how would this work? The Sixers would have to do this sign and trade before they then do any of the other Paul George stuff, because in order to sign and trade him, you need to have bird rights. In order to have his bird rights, you need to not renounce his rights. And right now he has a massive, I think it's like $28 million cap hold. So Sixers have to execute this move. And then once they execute the move, their cap situation is just whatever they get back. And I'm guessing they're probably want to get back as little as possible. So again, that seems like that would be right up the alley for a trade exception if the Warriors have one. Now, if the Sixers did do that, they would end up generating a trade exception of their own, the difference between the salary they send out and the salary they receive. Unfortunately, trade exceptions have a cap hold. So if the Sixers want to then execute the Paul George signing, which I assume they still do, they're probably going to have to clear that cap hold off of their books. So really what you're looking at is probably whatever picks they get back, would be my guess.
Calculator.
I don't think I spoke a single number in there. It's all just CBA stuff.
That's calculated.
You're calculating.
All right.
Yeah. But
you ever seen what a graphing calculator can do? That's more than just math.
But we talked about him a lot here in the possible return of why it may make sense, why it may not make sense. And he didn't see a lot of time with the Sixers in the postseason because he just simply couldn't make shots. Whenever he did get on the floor, he had some
except
turnovers.
for that one game.
The one shot in Game 6, and that's why Golden State is looking at it saying it's still in there. Well, it might still be in there, but not enough to bring him back here. And we discussed it. Hey, if he's on a lower number, then there's a potential to bring him back, but he might find it better for him to be there in Golden State with losing Klay Thompson, needing some more shooting on that team. You bring in DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson. You're not really counting on the shooting as much. Maybe with Melton, sure, but Kyle Anderson definitely not. You need somebody in Buddy Hield.
If you want to talk about, I always use the phrase loading up the trebuchet.
Right.
We need another term for whatever Kyle Anderson does when he's taking a
like
jump.
When they have the
the Boston mathematics robot.
Yes, the basketball robot. And isn't that Kyle Anderson, how he's loading up to get that shot off? So Buddy Hield makes sense for Golden State. Maybe not as much anymore, especially with the price tag, but it makes more sense for Golden State right now, trying to replace and find some more shooting to go with Steph Curry and add some more shooting to that team.
Yeah, I think his skill set, if you want to look at him as like a discount Klay, I think that's certainly fair. Now peak Klay, much, much better defender.
Oh, 100%.
So you're not getting that back with Buddy, although I think we all agreed that Buddy was, at least in terms of the effort, was better here than maybe we were expecting. So the Warriors hope that they're going to be able to get a lot of the movement, shooting, and the system fit from Buddy, where it was a little clunky for him in Philadelphia. Now, I also think they didn't use him enough in lineups with Joel Embiid, which is what we really wanted to see. They frankly did not have a ton of time to try to get the rotation in order to look at those types of minutes and those types of combinations. I would say, and I said it last night on Twitter right after the initial news broke, I think you're probably looking at a second-round pick or two in terms of the returning compensation. While it would be nice to try to steal a rotation guy here, as Derek already laid out the complications, that's one factor. The other thing is it just does not seem very likely that after hanging on to some of these guys like Moses Moody, despite the fact that they're not playing them, I cannot imagine they're just going to give them away. Not for Buddy Hield. It just seems... I would love specifically Moses Moody if they could get him, because Kuminga is valued a lot differently there, so that's not happening. I don't think Moses Moody is happening either. He's the one guy that really jumps out to me, though, you take him on as like a rehabilitation or just like elevate his role type of deal and hope that works out.
How do you see Golden State? You're just looking at them. Just so it's Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, of course, but just looking at them now after they go the Klay Thompson departure, and now these guys coming in, fitting in the West. How do you see them?
I mean, I think they're taking a pretty significant step back. And with Draymond not being maybe what Draymond was, and Klay, obviously the decline over the last couple of years, there's only so much Steph can do. Unless Andrew Wiggins unlocks that 1 year of magic he had a couple of years ago before he got that contract, I think it's going to be real tough for them to be a legitimate contender. I don't really see a path.
What about you? Just looking at them from afar.
I just don't really understand what the plan is. They've obviously been attached to Markkanen a lot. As they continue to just bleed away. Now, look, I like Buddy and Kyle Anderson there and Melton to different degrees, but they are now hard capped as a result of multiple sign and trades, and it seems pretty difficult to make any kind of big move happen. It seems like they're in this middle ground where they're certainly not going to completely rebuild with Steph still there.
Yeah.
But they're not really going for it either.
They keep being attached to Lowry marketing as if they're really focused on that. And
I just don't see how that works. Like they're
not taking back Andrew Wiggins.
Right. With what assets?
Yeah. And they've traded away stuff. So I just don't know how they get there. As far as marketing goes, I'm keeping a close eye on San Antonio. I've heard that they're sniffing around there. And boy, if you want to talk about a front court that just completely destroys how you want to play defense, you have Markkanen bombing away, Wemby bombing away, but also at 7-4, you spread that floor out. That'd be really, really interesting.
You see some of those Wemby practice highlights with Team France?
Listen, man, Spurs could be really good sooner than you think. And again, Chris Paul, in spite of the fact that he's 1,000 years old in NBA years, Chris Paul is one of my favorite fits of the entire offseason, putting him next to Wemby. And based on what we saw, obviously he was younger and better at this point. But when he went to Oklahoma City, people thought he was cooked, and they're wondering, how does he fit there? He really embraced that role as the leader of those young guys down there. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're going to get the absolute best he's got left. Whether that's a lot is another story, but very excited for that down there.
Yeah, really is. Excited also for what's coming up for the Summer League beginning next weekend against the in the Utah and the Salt Lake Summer League. The Philadelphia 76ers have fielded a team. They released their roster today. So, folks, we have a new segment we want to bring to you as we start off discussing the Summer League. And that is our Check the Resume Summer League.
Look at the graphics. Super producer Bree coming through.
She's the best with our friends from Indeed. And if you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. The Sixers are trying to find some more quality candidates fast by doing some hiring, and some of that hiring and putting them here through.
Some of you need to get a job. How about that?
This trial run here is through Summer League, and that's the Salt Lake Summer League and the Las Vegas Summer League. So, folks, we know how much you're looking forward to the Summer League getting underway for your team with Jared McCain and a few others. We have some names that we want to talk about individually as we get ready to head into Summer League next week. And looking at their roster, there's some pretty good names out there. And where do we begin first? Kyle, you want to start this one off with a name that you're focused on, maybe some hiring with Indeed?
Yeah, so the obvious name on the Summer League roster, and I'm really glad that he's actually going and presumably will participate, at least in Utah, maybe a game in Vegas, is friend of the program, Ricky Council.
Go get him, Rick!
Go get him, Rick. Look at another beautiful graphic.
Oh, man, I can't wait to see Ricky in this setting.
So
he wasn't good last season.
Yes. And part of my disappointment in last year's Summer League team came down to Ricky, that all the concerns we thought we had coming in, pretty glaring, wasn't able necessarily to leverage the athletic gifts that he had. And frankly, just looked like a guy that was worse than he was in college, where he was certainly not an unskilled player in college, right? Had a lot of traits that we really liked coming out. Didn't translate right away. I think one of the major benefits of the Summer League roster they have, which if you guys didn't see, both Derek and I tweeted out today. I don't know if you did, Devon, so if you did, correct me if I'm wrong. But the benefit of the roster they have, there's a lot of experience, quite frankly, on this Summer League roster. And they have some decent spacing, but really just some guys who have learned how to play basketball at this point. And some of these teams that they assemble, it just ends up being a lot of undrafted, second-round pick, quad A type players. And so the guys you're excited for in Summer League end up in a bad environment and don't get to show their strengths. Well, I think Ricky is going to be able to show his strengths in this Summer League. He's also going to get some chances to show, hey, is the improvement that we saw in his three-point shooting on low volume, very low volume last year. Is that for real? He's going to be one of him, McCain, and Bona will be the 3 most looked at guys on this team. How much is he able to initiate? How reliable is the catch and shoot jumper for him? Those are big questions. I'm looking to him to be a standout. I want to see him take control of this team, build off of the momentum we saw at times last season, and really start to make the case for regular rotation minutes. Because I think if you just look at how the roster stands right now, maybe they get a Highsmith Martin type guy as a 5th starter, but there are opportunities on the wing. Somebody is going to have to step up, whether it's a minimum guy, whether it's Ricky, and take one of these other rotation spots. He's a great rebounder on the wing, which we love. I love seeing him go up with 2 hands. I brought that up earlier. That's one of my pet peeves when guys go up with 1. Goes up strong, plays through contact, great driver, gets to the free throw line. So I want to see a little bit of progress. I want to see the shot come. And I want to see him showing some leadership for those guys after what I thought was a productive first year as a 2-way guy. I know it's on brand, but I'm really excited for Ricky. And I hope that the resume he keeps building in Vegas sets him up for a great summer league, or not great summer league, great preseason and hopefully regular season for the Sixers.
Can't wait to see what Ricky does with that setting. Been there before, didn't perform well. He thrives on trying to prove, of course, that he belongs. So having a much bigger role in that setting with everybody watching, I cannot wait to see what Ricky does there. He's been back here in Philadelphia working on this game with the coaching staff, with his brothers, and we know how important it was if you've seen our conversation with him in the past. I'm looking forward to see what Ricky does. I'll go with, as I check the resume here, of Romeo Langford. I saw someone mention it in the chat, and that was one of the first names that popped off of the list of players playing for the Philadelphia 76ers in both the Utah and Las Vegas Summer League. 5 years of experience, drafted by the Boston Celtics, came out of Indiana University, and he was a very, very highly talented high school player to land in Indiana. 14th overall in that 2019 draft, a part of the Boston Celtics. And when they drafted him, you're like, oh, they got another one that we look at here of why do they keep doing this and getting it right. And unfortunately, did not work out for him there, eventually going to San Antonio. But he has played, as Kyle mentioned, there's a lot of experience on this roster and still room for a 6'5" guard on the 76ers roster. I don't know that it's going to be the Sixers roster right away. Maybe it's something just simply getting into a training camp invite, being a part of the G League and working his way towards
an Exhibit
the roster.
10 type deal. You could certainly see something like that.
But the intangibles, again, are there with the size, game experience, and a guy maybe with a chip on the shoulder of still trying to prove that he belongs. I remember talking to one of the kids, a local kid this year, when he came into town. He was on his first NBA contract from Philadelphia. I knew Isaiah Brockington when he was a young kid. I know his dad very well. And when Zay came in, and I talked to him before the game when the Pelicans played the Sixers, he was like, it was just about making sure that you understand that you have to find a role in the league. A lot of players don't realize that. They still think that they are the guy that they were in high school and in college, and they cannot accept that they now have to find a niche in the NBA and stay in the NBA. And we've seen players adjust to that. I remember when Lou Williams thought he should have been starting.
I mean, look, I'm used to having my own podcast. I got to come here and listen to this fucking guy talk for like 40 minutes and 50 minutes. It's an adjustment. I get it.
It is an adjustment. And sometimes I need to shut up. I guess that's what happens.
Oh, I was talking about that guy.
Yeah.
I talked for 4 hours.
I thought that was pretty clear.
Pretty nice. And I can get long-winded. But when talking to Zay, and going back to Lou Williams felt at some point he established himself as a starter. And then coaches started to tell him, hey, you can be one of the best 6 men in the league. He is now talked about as one of the best 6 men of all time with Jamal Crawford. He has 4 of them because of that and understanding and finding a role in a way into the league that way. So with Romeo Langford, again, they're always trying to do something. And if it's not with Philadelphia, maybe it's somebody else, but he does enough on the floor to show that he still belongs here in the NBA with some decent size. As a guard who can put the ball on the floor, maybe make some shots from beyond the three-point line, show that you belong by diving on the floor, defending really well, where you find your way back into an NBA roster. So with Romeo Langford, a name on this roster with the experience that Kyle talked about, and I'm sure Derek will as well, Romeo Langford popped off right away when I saw that list come across my email earlier with this basketball team. So when we look at it and checking the resume, I'm checking the resume of Romeo Langford with Indeed.
No, I mean, between him and Tony Bradley, they have like 300 games of NBA experience. Like Kyle's mentioning, this might be the most experienced summer league roster we've ever seen. The guy I went with, we knew he was going to be there. They just drafted him. But who knows, maybe if he works hard and shows more than we expect, he can earn a promotion. And that would be a Devon Givens. And part of that
I like the promotion with Indeed. I like that.
I was trying to work it
I like that.
Part of it is that he's a new draft pick. You just want to see what you have in him. Part of it is that I really want that sort of archetype of a big man, especially backing up Embiid, especially if you're going to rely on Drummond to be your primary backup. You want a little bit of diversity, especially defensively, and he has that. He can alter more shots at the rim. He can certainly switch more. I want to see whether or not he can translate that into NBA action maybe sooner than some people expect. Just the size, the athleticism, the physicality, the motor, switchability. I want to see all of it, and I want to see if it's closer to an NBA level than maybe we expected coming in. Am I expecting much? No. He was a 41st pick. Big men, they can sometimes impact the game quicker than their guard counterparts. Their roles and responsibilities are simplified compared to that of a point guard. But it is still a learning curve. You don't have your expectations set super high. But part of the reason that I'm focusing on him is because I know he's got the athletic tools. I know he's got the motor. So if he can figure everything else out on a quicker timeline, I think that would really help. Might not help this year in the playoffs, but it might be at least give you confidence going into the next season. This is sort of like the first chance he has to audition for being a long-term consideration, and I want to see what he's got.
Yeah, and with the Paul Reed situation being what it is, they basically need him to step up, or we might be talking at the deadline about I'm going to have to use some small assets, but assets to try to get a third big that you actually trust for a potential playoff run, a guy with a different skill set than Andre Drummond behind Joel.
Tough part with big men in Summer League is this is normally geared for guards. Even though they run offense and coaches want to set things up and run plays and do that stuff, the guards, man, they are really trying to lock in, and they are really, really trying to lock in on getting their shots up. It's almost like an all-star game and playing, and the guards are always the ones that control the game. So it's going to be tough for guys. That's why for him, and we'll get to another name, a familiar name that people are bringing up in the chat, and Derek already mentioned it, Tony Bradley, but they have to do their thing on the offensive glass, on the defensive glass, and also just hustle and block shots and things of that nature, because the guards are going to squeeze off some shots, and they have to get those boards.
Yeah, so. And Tony Bradley, as you bring him up, Devon, he will be helpful for somebody like Jared McCain, where going to set good screens. He'll be in the right places for him. And so while I'm dubious on McCain long-term as like a lead ball handler type, in this environment, he'll be set up well he's going to have a guy in Bona who that's a lob target. That's somebody you can throw over the top to. Bradley is a different sort of player, below the rim type finisher, but he's played long enough in the league, has a good enough understanding of NBA offenses that the pure competence that they should have at Summer League will be beyond most Summer League teams. And so I think that sets up McCain, Ricky, all these guys for more success than normal.
Yep. And with that, our Summer League, our Check the Resume Indeed segment there, again, brought to you by our good friends from Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast.
Thank you, Indeed.
Just doing that just to piss you off now. You try to take my bell away from
He was looking for it.
I didn't take anything. Why you look at me and say you're pissed at me?
At least I thought I saw it from the corner of my eye.
I feel like 50 Cent. What did he say fuck me for?
I didn't say that. I was talking about Devon.
Well, we did have
a ding worthy
for a reason.
Piece of news. But I don't know if it was that strong of a ding.
I'm a little
According to
surprised by
Woj,
this.
Joe Ingles, 1-year deal to join the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I'm surprised by this because I thought that was, of course, with the language, that he was coming back to Orlando on a restructured deal. But I do like the fit here. I think he's the replacement for Kyle Anderson, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Kyle Anderson was just a tough fit in the playoffs. Like the fact that he made like 1 3-pointer a series, it's really tough to make work, especially when you then add in the slow portion of the slow-mo. Ingles is definitely a more reliable shooter, and yeah, it's fair.
And now he can't yell at Rudy Gobert anymore. Kyle Anderson. On the other side, he can. Now not. At least Joe Ingles has played with Rudy Gobert. He understands of where that can get a little funny. Also, when we're talking about Indeed in the Summer League, we will be out in Vegas beginning on Tuesday. 4-hour shows. Tuesday, we'll be in Vegas. We'll go from Tuesday to the following Tuesday when we come back home. So shows from Tuesday to Monday. Following Monday, as all three of us will be out there in Vegas for Team USA, following Joel Embiid, and then the Summer League action that gets underway as well. So we'll be out there, and we look to have fun again. And as it is brought to us by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics, as they take care of us as we hop on a plane to head out to Vegas, where the weather is like
Devon and I were talking about taking our cough drops, emergency, all that, going to and from Vegas. You're always worried about catching something.
And our buddies right here, got to make sure we have those ready for while we're out there in
Shady
Las
Rays,
Vegas.
baby.
We got the Shady Rays going on. So we'll be out there in Vegas starting next Tuesday for our coverage for Team USA with Joel Embiid, and then the NBA Summer League. We got a lot of Super Chats that we got to run through, so let's run through these Super Chats here on this Wednesday. We are off for 4th of July tomorrow, so we will not see you tomorrow. We'll see you on Friday.
And I won't see you till we're in Las Vegas.
There
I'm
you
pretty
go.
sure. I'm having a nice off day on July 5th.
So let's get to Furious here. Love the show, guys. Will this be the first year that a team builds 80% of their team in the offseason and wins a title? Thank you, Furious. Haven't heard from Furious in a while. Good question.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't be able to think of a outside of.
There are very few examples of teams stripping it down to the nails like this and not rebuilding, right? A lot of these examples are in the opposite
One thing I was
direction.
thinking of was the Heatles, but they didn't win it the first year.
No, it took them.
Now, they did get there.
Yeah.
So will people be satisfied with getting there?
Oh, come on. They haven't been out of the second round. Of course they'll be.
They'll be
happy.
satisfied in the sense that there's progress, but once you're there, it's also like
everything's out the window.
Yeah.
Win. You might as
you haven't
well
had
do
this
it.
opportunity since 2001. You might as well take take advantage while you're there.
Yeah, and one thing that Joel Embiid talked about, and of course the front office and the coaching staff did too, Joel Embiid was big on camaraderie and making sure that there's not a lot of turnover year after year after year. Now you have these three guys locked up for 4 years together, and that's important. Can the role players, can that be the same? Now, Kelly Oubre signs his deal, but can you also make sure that if he balls out this season, that if you have to re-up him, you re-up him and keep him in the fold, keep him in the mix at a decent number with this team. John checks in and says, with the nice $10 donation. Donations! We love it. It's coming to America, folks. You know it. In order to sign Hayward, is it Hayward or Haywood Highsmith? Which one are we talking about? I'm guessing it's Highsmith.
Yeah.
Haywood Highsmith. Will we have to release Paul Reed? If so, is signing him a waste of possibly bringing someone in closer to that $15 million salary?
So you would have to release him to get that cap space. I would be relatively surprised if they trade B-Ball to get up to $15 million because I don't think Daryl Morey wants to hard cap himself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to completely rule it out, but I would be pretty surprised if he does it.
So it's not as much about the name that keeps getting thrown around is Dorian Finney-Smith, right? And he's right at that, right under the $15 million number that is like very close to the hard limit you have to build out the rest of the roster. The difference, you're not just weighing player versus player. You're weighing player versus player and maneuverability leading into the trade deadline. So if you cut Paul Reed and sign Highsmith, you still have a ton of options going into the trade deadline in terms of what you can bring in. Now, it still has to be salary matching and all that, but you are not boxed in as much as you are if you trade for Dorian Finney-Smith and basically have nowhere to go for the rest of the season.
It would be one thing if they executed this B-Ball trade and they had like $15 million in space under that first apron, which again becomes a hard cap if you do that B-ball Paul for more salary trade. It would be one thing if they had $10 million in space. They would be like legitimately trying to, like, you would be counting every $100K you spend because you would be right up, possibly over that hard cap. It would be really, really tough. And then you get to the deadline, you're like, well, I'm going to have to cross off a whole bunch of trades and transactions, possibly even buyouts, because I just don't have the space under that hard tax. Daryl Morey has historically tried to avoid the hard cap in previous seasons. It's even more punitive and restrictive now. I would be surprised, unless there's a home run, if he makes a B-ball Paul trade, which adds more salary and hard caps him. I'd be surprised.
All right. Appreciate it, Furious. We check in here with, what's that? Simi B. Thank you for checking in. I think a great fit at the 4 spot is Tari Eason. He's young, but he checks every box. Do you think he's available for a couple of firsts coming off of an injury?
So, Sim, we did talk about Tari yesterday, or was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
I think yesterday. I believe all of us are fans of his in terms of the fit on defense, rebounding, energy, dirty work, all the stuff that I think we agree is what they need. The issue I think the Sixers run into, or any team runs into with Eason, is that Houston is not a team right now that necessarily wants or needs extra draft picks. Like, that doesn't help them a lot to trade a guy who can play right now as they're trying to make the jump from right outside the playoff picture to a playoff team. Now, the scenario I laid out yesterday is that if Kevin Durant or some big name becomes available, then maybe, hey, if you can recoup a couple of first-round picks for a young player, and Phoenix is trying to completely rebuild and they want a lot of draft capital, then that's a scenario where at that point, yes, then maybe Tari Eason to the Sixers or a comparable team becomes more feasible. I just think right now, if they were to move Tari Eason, I would think it's more likely they look for like a ready-made rotation guy rather than multiple picks. But I could be wrong.
But yeah, in terms of a bigger forward who can, certainly rebound, defend the heck out of the ball, flip that, defend and rebound the heck out of the ball, I think has a little bit of promise with the shot, although I'm not completely bought into it yet. He would add a level of athleticism, defensive playmaking, rebound this team just doesn't have. But I agree with Kyle. If they do look to move him, I feel like there are other teams that would satisfy what Houston is looking for more than the Sixers.
Off of that, I want to bring in 2 super chats and kind of combine them. That's both Presidential Mike. We'll read his first. Would you trade for Grant Williams to start at power forward? Leaning into Bills, which is kind of gets along with the Tari Eason and Grant Williams. Bill says, are we not worried about the lack of size and rebounding? So you just mentioned, both of you mentioned the rebounding piece of it with Tari Eason, and getting into the Grant Williams part, some decent size, 6'6", 6'6", 6'6".
Yeah. A little undersized for a power forward, which I think
but not
a
huge rebounder either.
Right, but he is a bulkier body, and we know about his intangibles, his defensive acumen that he does have a good defensive reputation, at least with Boston, and not so much Dallas because he wasn't there long enough to see that there. But the Grant Williams piece is just tough because 2 teams got rid of him, and they were both in the finals, and it didn't seem like they missed him. Now, could you maybe get him at a decent number because of where Charlotte is right now and their rebuild? They may want some more veterans in there with that young team to keep Grant Williams, but it's an interesting name that we've actually discussed. Mike, we have talked about Grant Williams. And as far as the size go on the other side, addressing Paul George is some good size there in the starting lineup. Bringing back Kelly Oubre is good size there in the starting lineup. Signing Andre Drummond as a rebounder addresses some of the size and the rebounding, even off the bench, where you need help, because a lot of the question was, when Embiid sits, these things go the other way. So they have, but we still would like to see more with some of the what they're doing, which is why the Adam Bodner part is important. And even Tony Bradley, even as a 4th center maybe on the roster, you're looking at somebody that's a smart veteran who knows, who's not super athletic, has to rely on the other attributes of his game with the intangibles to make sure that these small things work out for him. Boxing out, securing the rebound with 2 hands. Ricky Council, 2-hand rebounder. things like that. And I think that addresses some of the things that Mike and Bill, we appreciate both of you asking that question. Next up, I need, what is this one? I can't. Oh, just
Is Dorian Finney-Smith good?
yeah. I don't know that one.
Is that Jason Richardson in the graphic? Or is that Joel Embiid? It's very far away. I just see 20. It's Joel.
Okay.
Yeah. Our screen is far away
He's
and a little
basically
small.
asking
So.
if Dorian Finney-Smith is actually good. And then does Beef Stew have potential given his size and 3-point percentage?
What do you think? Dorian Finney-Smith. You've talked about him.
I mean, look, I think his shot hasn't been as good here as it was in Dallas. Is he like good? Probably not good. Would he be useful with this roster? Yes. You know, the shot has been 35, 36% over the last couple of years. Before that, it was trending up towards 40%. I think part of it is he's just not getting as quality of catch and shoot shots as he previously did. Playing with Luka is good for a player of that archetype. So maybe playing here would help. But like, am I doing cartwheels? Well, first of all, I'm not really doing cartwheels anyway, but theoretically.
I would love to see Derek. Maybe Michael Belfatti will pay for a cartwheel from Derek
There's
Bodner
not a
at some
chance
point.
in hell. I don't care how much. Anyway, would I theoretically, hypothetically be doing cartwheels? I've never even tried it in my life.
I've tried it.
Even when I was young and like
couldn't
had work. Anyway. Would I be head over heels about it? Like, no, but like I think he could be useful. It's just I don't want to hard cap myself for that utility.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I like Dorian Finney-Smith. I think he'd be a good fifth starter type, high end of the rotation type player, switchable defender, somewhat questionable shooting profile. That being said, hard capping yourself for the right to have him on the roster, that might be a bridge too far. So that is really the conversation here. It's not so much, I like the player. I like him a little bit more than Beef Stew, I think, because I think Beef Stew is kind of a...
Yeah, Isaiah, man. Come on.
Let's say live wire is the nicer way to say that.
Toughness.
He's a bit of an interesting personality.
Toughness.
He likes the toughness.
I like Dorian Finney-Smith. Don't love him.
He'll chase you to the locker room. That's what happens.
But I don't love anybody that's going to be available for $7 million right now in free agency, or is really gettable in a trade for a reasonable price.
I wonder whoever that fifth starter is, if he's the fifth starter after the trade deadline as we get ready for a postseason run.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing with the hard cap too. Like, it's one thing to hard cap yourself in February when you know that this is your final move, or at least you can see what moves you have left to make. Doing it in July is just like, that's really limiting. It's really limiting.
When you put together a team, you like to put it together right away, though. You understand that part of it, of just people want to see the five and know that five is really good going into it.
Michael said he's going to smack me for suggesting he'd pay for Derek Cartwheels. That's not very nice, Michael. I was just playing around, man.
Taj W., what's your prediction for who the fifth starter will be, whether it be the sign or trade? Taj, thanks. We've talked a ton about it. Hopefully, we know we're a little behind on reading this one.
I would say if I had to make a prediction, I think Caleb Martin is the most likely of the ones we've talked about.
I would agree with that.
I just think signing someone in general is the more likely for now. I think if there is somebody that we don't know about that becomes available, or they are in contact with another team about that person that's above that Finney-Smith tier, sure, I could see a trade. Otherwise, I think they preserve some flexibility now, and then you see how it plays out with the rest of the minimum guys and who they have on the roster. And then in January, late December, January, February, then you can push your chips in and say, okay, final piece type guy, and really go for it.
It's a lock. Paul George following him on social media. It's a lock. And we're not even questioning it.
Hey, Instagram's been a fruitful place for scoops this past week or two.
Bobby B, I love this. Bobby B, no message other than you guys continue to bring great content without the clickbait. Takes a star wing, chose Philly over LA. Let's enjoy all of that. Go get him, Rick.
Love the positivity.
mean, I'm not sure he really chose Philly over LA. He chose 4 years.
He quite
to 12.
literally did, and we're not going to say anything else. He wore an Allen Iverson shirt on Sunday.
I also got to say this. When Bobby B jumps up there in the super chat, first thing I think of is the late, great Bernie Mac, who we were having fun with a couple of months ago. Bobby B, baby. Bobby B in Transformers. He had 3 minutes in that movie.
Now you're making me think of Jawbone again.
What is that, House Party?
House Party 3.
Yeah. But he had 3 minutes in that Transformers movie. And by the way, if you're just learning who I am, that's a movie that me and my daughters love. They grew up kind of watching
Heard
that
they
with
call
me.
you Jawbone.
And Bernie Mac stole that scene in Transformers for 3 minutes because that's who he is. And then he goes on in class, and I was thinking Class Act. He goes into House Party 3. And he's Bobby.
Bernie Mac,
Bernie
man.
Mac again,
God rest
man.
his soul.
He's
What a funny guy.
I was watching him in How to Be a Player recently. He had scenes in there. It was just classic. Classic. Thank you, Bobby B. We really appreciate it. We try our best to make sure we're not doing any clickbait stuff. We always give you our honest opinion, and we hope that we continue to see you in here, Bobby B, along with many others. And our final super chat here for the day.
Wait, we have 2 more, I think.
Oh, Brian Pump. I didn't see Pump there. I saw Sanj. Let's go to Sanj first. Thanks for the
Let's save Sanj for after Brian Pump arrives.
Let's go to Brian Pump. I see that this possible 5-team trade might include Charlotte. Any chance that Josh Green gets recruited to Philadelphia? Low salary? So Josh Green got rerouted from Dallas with the Golden State signing of Klay Thompson, signing trade with Klay Thompson. He was rerouted to Charlotte with that team. I don't know Josh Green's plans and what Charlotte has in store for him, but he's a nice player.
He shoot a little bit.
Yeah. Remember that one game when they were here, Dallas, and he could not. He could not.
He
miss.
was unbelievable.
He made
in that
5
game.
threes in that game, and that was the game where Luka looked like so disinterested out there, and the Sixers won. But Josh Green could not miss.
I forgot about that game. I remember sitting on press row now, being like, "What the hell did this guy eat for breakfast today?"
He was Trevor Ariza in the corner. He just every time he got the ball in the corner, he made the shot. And but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know what Charlotte's doing. I don't know who they might be interested in getting rid of, but they've already gotten rid of Seth Curry. They waived him. He's a free agent, but I don't know. I would imagine they try to keep him actually with that team that likes to run with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I would imagine, for me, I would think they would like to keep him.
Yeah,
with somebody with some playoff experience,
and he's still young enough that you hope that he's the experienced young guy that, as they are trying to your point, Devon, build them up, just give them a little bit more respectability and some flexibility on the wing as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Mike again first. We'll save Sanj because our buddy Mike says, Mike Belfatti, friend of the show, I'll also go a no message, but love you guys. Love you too. Love you too, Mike. We really appreciate it, and we thank you, as always, for the donations and the support. MBD wants the roll call today from Derek instead of Kyle, because Derek does them when Kyle's doing post game.
Looks like I get to walk off the set. All right.
Yeah, we got to get you on the road. So
I've done roll call before.
Yes.
That's all that hasn't happened.
It's not just my job, I know.
Kyle just does it better than me, so we let him do it.
All right. Bodner roll call, MBD. We appreciate it. And finally, Shanj. Thanks for the content, guys. Kyle, scale of 1 to 10. Finger painted nails. How happy are you to not have to run into one in particular guy who's in the news today for a whole NBA season? Get him.
Okay, so obviously there have been a lot of comments at the start of the show, throughout the show, plenty of things on Twitter about this particular individual who I spoke on, what's it, like 2 months ago now?
Yeah,
it's been
about
a
2
long,
months ago.
God, we've had a long off season. This has been
That video has a nice lifespan.
going on for a while. And I thought a lot last night about whether I really wanted to come in here and put on a fur coat or, have a eulogy or whatever you wanted to say. I do think the most important thing here, I don't want to make this about me and my thoughts on this individual, because the difference between making fun of Howard for taking shots at Joel, taking shots at Iverson, saying that he wanted to cut off Terrell Owens' oxygen in his hyperbaric chamber, picking fights with Charlie Manuel, things of that nature. This is a thing that he did that there's an actual victim.
Yes.
And unlike in those instances where that's just, it's sports talk and we can yell and I can curse and I can make fun of this guy for being a D-bag, this is someone else was impacted and it's a real life thing. What I would say, the only real commentary I have to offer is that my complaint as it pertains to Sixers games is someone showing up and essentially not doing a job, but just wanting to generate attention for themselves. And perhaps if this someone was not so focused on generating attention and getting attention from people and was doing a job, they wouldn't be in the Diamond Club harassing people, allegedly, during a game on the job and getting thrown out of that stadium for the next year, getting banned from the Sixers practice facility, and things of that nature. So I'm not going to turn this into a bigger thing than that. You guys see what is out there. I don't really need to add much more than that. So that's about all I have to say.
No, I had pretty much the exact same reaction as Kyle. You know, this was a guy who spent legitimately 2 decades every time a woman called him up, telling her to get back in the kitchen, asking her what she's making for dinner. I didn't need any more examples to know that this guy does not respect women whatsoever. We didn't learn anything by this. All you have is a victim. So it's hard for me to like come out here and show any kind of excitement just because he's getting a little bit of what he deserves. There's a victim here. It's just, it's different and it sucks. And it sucks that he's been enabled for so long. You can't really change that. It's nice to see him finally get a little bit of the consequences of his action. But unfortunately, it comes with a victim associated with it.
Yeah, I won't say not as fun. It's not fun, period, in this instance, because this is not about me mocking this guy for sports things. This is about a real person who was impacted by this. And I'll leave it at that.
And that's the only part I'll go to is, you know, there's someone else who's a part of this story too, who remains nameless, but they brought this whole thing up because of something that happened that made them uncomfortable, and they have to experience it too. I always talked about this in my past when things came up and I had to discuss it on the radio. I have 3 daughters and they are my world. So when certain things come up with things like this, I have morals and I feel like my morals carry me and with who I am and, you know, why I have relationships that I do with people and able to walk through this business and be cool and enjoy myself and have fun and talk sports with these guys and Bree and all of you. And so when you see something like this, it's just tough to see, especially when you talk about the unnamed person on the other side that also has had to deal with this in a different way than what we're talking about with the guy that now has to no longer be in the spotlight because of his decisions. So a couple more super chats are coming in though as we talk. Just following this conversation after Kyle says, we got to say it because our buddy Martian Lynch with all the caps as always, got to do it in his voice. Wop, 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 Kyle.
Martian, you are a fool, man. Yeah. I love you. You are a fool.
And my one daughter would be mad that I did that because she's on Drake's side. When Kendrick Lamar.
Fuck 'em up.
Yeah. And then we've got Influencer Nation. What's more important for a power forward's defense and rebounding or defense and shooting?
Those are my 2 options. I will take defense and shooting.
I would too.
Mm-hmm. Especially for this particular team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially with Joel. But really in just NBA 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Rebounding, you can cover up as a team. Shooting, if there's a non-shooter, it impacts you every possession down the floor.
Man, here we go again. That means it. All right, we got to get ready to say goodbye because we're going to keep getting
I got to get on the road, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm trying to have a weekend away.
Ed Wright says, BS local media, like this particular person that we're talking about, is the antithesis of what the modern fan wants. Shows like this are why we're here. Actual conversation and analysis. We appreciate that, Ed. We strive to bring you that, and we just want to have fun. We want to have some good conversation, laugh with you, fight back, but invite you in again, and hope that you invite us back into your home and what the conversations that we're talking about. And so yeah, that's all we're looking to do. But we got to say goodbye. We hope everybody has a great 4th of July and enjoy yourself. Be safe. The fireworks are out there, so be safe. We don't want to see you on one of these viral videos running from the fireworks that you set up because you set them up improperly. So have fun, have some good food, some good laughs. Choose chill while you're out there. And
I'm choosing real chill this weekend.
make sure that you are safe, and we appreciate all of your support. Of course, we'll be back on Friday at 2 p.m. Right, Derek? We're going 2 p.m.
That's good call, because I'd forgotten about that.
2 p.m. on Friday. Myself, Derek, Bree will all be here for you. But we want to make sure that we say goodbye, have a great one. And before we do, we cannot go away without having our roll call.
You're up, Derek.
Oh, am I doing it this time? I thought I was just going to do it Friday.
MBD.
All right, sure. No, I guess we'll start off with MBD since he gave the $10 to put me through hell.
MBD.
Elliot Vincent, Jason S., Flyers in 7, Steve, 2-minute warning. No, you're not going to do that, Al?
What up, Al? I saw you in there.
Eugene Ross, Brian Hunter, Kyle Wright, 3-time.
What up, Gene?
Jess, Marcus Blackstock.
Hey, Jess. We repaired our friendship, Jess. We're back.
Why? What happened with Jess?
She said we had to. I said some basketball things she didn't like.
Oh, boy.
So now we're back. We're back.
That happens.
Yeah.
You can't avoid that.
We're back.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Remo K, Winona.
Hey, Nona.
Phil W. Still a little upset you didn't get that 480, but that's all right. You'll make do. Jason S.
What
J
up, Phil?
Love. Fichi. Phi Chai. Phi Chai. We'll go with Phi Chai. Igavini. I haven't done this in a while. Igavini. MBD. Martian. Hysterical. I fucking love that guy.
What up, Martian?
He's crazy.
Yes.
Bootzilla.
Boots.
Bobby B. AA Ron.
Bobby B, baby.
Jonathan Chen. Uptown Buck. Real Time.
Here, I'll do one for you. Darkness.
I didn't see him. Did you see him? Is he in there?
He was in here today.
Yeah, he was in there.
See, usually when I do these, I write down names like as the show goes on, but it sprung on me in the last minute. I did not see Darkness. I'll have to work on my Kyle impression on that one.
That's all right. Yeah.
First of all, that's not a Kyle impression.
Well,
that's Kyle
Kyle's,
doing an impression of somebody else.
Charlie Murphy.
Charlie
Murphy.
Brian Knight. I see Brian. That's all I got.
Wish I had 4 hands. I'm not repeating the rest of that line.
We also appreciate it. We also appreciate our sponsors, Indeed, of course, for our first time sharing with you guys our Check the Resume segment as we went with our Summer League, Romeo Langford, Ricky Council, and Adem Bona. And thank you, as always, to our sponsor for our draft coverage, free agency, and when we go to Vegas, Summer League, Rothman Orthopedics. Everybody have a safe one. And before we let you go, we got to tell you to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon.
So you get notifications each and every time you go live. And if you hit the thumbs up button, maybe you'll all have some time in the next few days to stop and smell the roses. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Bree.
We all silly like the mayor.